Over the last little while, I have been using my Leica Q2 monochrome more and more and more, and I'm using it in all kinds of situations, outside in bright daylight, maybe inside at the Chattanooga market where it's darker, more subdued. A lot of, being out doing street photography and going from a bright spot on the sidewalk to a dark spot in an alley. And I've been trying to figure out a way to edit the easiest way possible. One of the things that happens, especially in low light, high ISO, is that it still develops a lot of noise. And so one of the things that I was trying to do was figure out a way to batch edit noise reduction. Now, the noise reduction in Lightroom works pretty good, but I find that the final result ends up kind of muddied. It takes away from the sharpness of the photo. And still have the Topaz sharpening AI as a plugin, and I could open each individual picture and do the modification and save it. That takes a long time to process every picture. I thought, well, maybe I could use Topaz to just bring in all of my DNG files, but it doesn't read like a DNG files. So I had to find a program that would read like a DNG, do batch processing, and export into Lightroom. And I settled on On1 Camera Pro, I think that's what it's called. And I wanted to take today to just sort of show you my editing process, trying to get it down to as minimal work as possible. I'm still using DNG files rather than JPEG, but we're going to see what that looks like going from On1 to Lightroom. So you can see here in Lightroom, I have not imported these photos. These are photos that I've taken across different photo shoots and different kind of light situations. And just glancing, you can see I've got some pretty bright photos and some pretty dark photos. And when you bring them into Lightroom, one of the things you can do is sort of make adjustments to an image and then sync those adjustments across all the images. And you can see that's not going to work here because the images are so different in light conditions. So if I bring up On1 and I have it set to this same folder where I just sort of pulled these images in, if I open an image, I just want to show you what the settings look like individual image first. So if I open an image, you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, I am now in edit mode. And in the left-hand side of the screen, I have a lot of different presets. I haven't started really playing around with presets yet, but there's a really interesting way to use that. If I turn on Brilliance AI, which is kind of like auto in Lightroom, so I'm just going to turn that on, and then it's going to do a little progress. You can see it made the image just a little bit brighter, but it doesn't do anything to the dark tones. I'd really like to kind of crush those blacks down a little bit. But where I want to go here is in noise. Now, I've tried noise and tack sharp. The tack sharp, especially in raw files with people, that tack sharp just destroys people. So all I want to do is do the no noise. I'm going to turn it on, and you can kind of see here the difference it makes between various modes. And you'll see down here at the bottom, it's sort of operating, this little blue line down there. It's telling me this is doing all of the editing to this one image. That's not really what I want. What I want is batch processing. So I have not hit apply here yet. So all I'm seeing is kind of a preview. if I hit apply, it's going to take a long time to render that one photo again. So what I want to do is I want to come back here to browse. All right, so I'm back in the browse feature, and you can see that, I have all these images, and I'm just going to, I've got that first one selected. I'm going to push down the shift key. I'm going to select the last one. I've selected all of the images. Now when I come up here to Brilliance AI and I turn on tone and color, I don't really know that I need to worry about local adjustments because I'm not doing masking, those kinds of things. But I do want to do no noise as on. And I don't care about the large faces. But so I have just those few clicks. And then I'm just going to right click in here. And I'm going to tell it that I want it to send it to Adobe Lightroom Classic. Now, what's going to happen is it's going to process every single image. It's going to take a while. So generally, once I do this, I get up and do other things. So I'm going to click this, and then we will be back when it has brought it into Lightroom for us to look at. Okay, so what On1 does, by the way, that was 24 photos, and it took about 35 minutes. So you can do the math of you had 200 photos that you took. I don't ever take that many with the black and white camera. So what On1 does is that it modifies every single picture, exports it. You'll see it here in the folder. It's in the same folder the original files were from. You can see all of the DNG files. Those were the original ones. And then you can see next to that the copy TIFF file, which is brought in from On1. And everything is selected here. I don't want to do everything. I'm going to uncheck them all. And I'm just going to go through and put a check mark on the TIFF files. Now, this does do this automatically, but before I did this, I already had those other files sort of selected, and they stayed selected, which is not normally what I do. So I'm just going to come through here and make sure that I've got all of these done. And then I'm going to import them into Lightroom. Now, this is the process that I do all the time in Lightroom. You may do things differently. So I'm just going to select all of those. I'm going to come up here to Library. I'm going to do a collection set. I'm going to call this For the Video. And I'm just going to create it. And then I'm going to come back to Library, do a new collection that says Full Shoot. And I'm going to put that inside the For the Video folder. That's all of the images. So when I open these up, typically what I do is I go through and I select the ones that I want to edit. So, and I'll do that by using the P key to put a flag. You see a flag at the bottom. So I'll edit that one. I'll go ahead and edit that one. I'll definitely edit that one. Yeah, let's go ahead and edit that one. Not going to edit that one. Not going to edit that one. I'll go ahead and edit that one. And we'll do that one. And I'll skip that one. We'll do that one. Don't like that one. Okay, that's got a nice little cute dog in it. I'm going to skip that one because the lighting's awful. Let's see. I know I'm going to do that one instead of the other one. I'm not going to worry about that one. We'll do this one. And I think nope, got another one. So I'm just going to select a few here. Yeah, why not? All right, so now I've got flags on these. I'm going to edit those down to just the ones with the flags. Select them all again. Do another one that says pics. and then go to the Edit tab. Now, again, or the Develop module. I'm going to go to the Develop module. Again, one of the things that I'm trying to do is make editing at this point as simple as possible. I don't mind waiting the half hour for the photos to render and get the noise reduction done. I'm perfectly happy with that because I can do other things. Or if I've got a lot of pictures, I could do it last thing in the evening, come back and find them in the morning. So one of the first things that I'll do with this, usually with my vertical pictures, the first thing I do is crop them to 4x5. They just look a little better in when I put them in videos. But I also want to sort of straighten that. So I'm going to do auto. We'll close that. And then because the noise has already been removed, and you can see in this writing, I really haven't lost any detail. It's still fairly sharp. Let me go back here into the edit or then typically what I do is I'll just pull the blacks down to get it more of a contrast. And I pull it down pretty far. And then I add some contrast to the image. I will also go in here and do a little bit of vignetting. I usually do 10 or 11, not much. And that's really all that I would do to that image at this point. So then I can move on to the next image. Again, pull the blacks down. Pull it down pretty far. I am going to edit this again to 4x5 and see if I can straighten it just a little bit. Now, I don't like that straightening. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And instead, I'm going to come down here to transform. Let's see what auto does. That's a little better. And then if I come back up here to, I just want to kind of straighten that steeple up a little bit. Okay, so again, now I will come in here and I will, again, pull the blacks down, do a little bit of contrast, but then I might want to also do something with the sky. Now, at this point, I'm not going to bother with the sky, but that's typically what I would do is worry about the sky. In this picture, it's really, really over-processed the picture. But if I bring the blacks down, it was already kind of bright to start with. I bring the blacks all the way down. I'm also going to bring the shadows down just a tad. We're going to bring the contrast up just a little bit. I'm not going to crop that, but I think I will see what the transform tool does with those lines. I like that look better. And again, I will come down here and put a little bit of a vignette on it. Yeah, let's do this one. So, because again, I'm just trying to give you an idea of how I do the edits. Now, I don't like what auto did there because it did away with that lady's foot at the bottom. Let's see if I could do that with the transform tool instead. Yeah, and that left her foot at the bottom of the image. And so with an image like this, typically what I would do is develop this then in Photoshop. All right, and once it brings it into Photoshop, I've got these areas here where it's cropped out stuff, and I'm just going to take the magic wand tool, and I'm going to select that. Let's try that again. Select that, select that, select that little sliver up there, and then I am going to, I want to do fill and I want to do generative fill. And I just want to generate, not too bad. We will then save this image back into Lightroom. This was a really awful picture to do because I'm taking way more steps than I wanted to show you, but it will kind of demonstrate kind of what's going on. So here is the edited TIFF. And again, I'm just going to come up here to the basic menu. I'm going to pull the blacks down a little bit. There we go. I don't want to do much because I don't want to do them. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast, but then I'm going to take a radial gradient. I'm going to select them. I'm going to duplicate and invert. I'm going to bring the exposure down around them so that they're highlighted more. So you get the idea of what few steps I really have to go through once I've done batch editing. So this is how I'm doing all of my black and white images from the Leica. So when I go on a camping trip and I take some images maybe down in Savannah, and then I go to Scotland later and take the Leica with me to do images in Scotland, these are the steps I will take to come to the final images that I show. If you have questions, please sure and leave them in the comments. And if you have a better way to do what I'm doing, let me know that as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.